Hello everyone, this is Dave Blum with Dr. Clue, and today we are gathered here to talk about the inner and outer game of employee engagement. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this. I don't take it for granted. We're all very busy. So taking a little bit of time to talk about how you can engage employees and how you can engage yourself. It's a big deal, and I commend you. Kudos for making that a priority. We have a lot to talk about. I'm so excited to do this one. This is a talk that I've done once before, and I'm so excited to do it again. And we're just going to jump right into it. I'm going to do a little test here. You should be seeing my screen that is showing a picture of me and my slides. If you're not, please let me know. We are going to be getting going. I would love it if you would introduce yourself in the chat box below. And to do that, you're going to need to log into Facebook to do it. Hopefully we'll all have Facebook at this point. So if you could log into that big thing at the bottom that says chat wing, that would be fantastic. And let me know who you are and where you're from. All right, I'm going to take a look. Actually, while you're doing that, I'm just going to take a look and see if that is happening. Hey, look at that. We've got Becky from Houston. Hey, Becky. Donica from Santa Rosa. Fantastic. Gordon checked in a little while ago. Fantastic. Keep on checking in as you're going along. I'd love to hear from you, and it's great to acknowledge people who are visiting today. Terrific. All right, I have so much to talk about today that I need to get started pretty much immediately. So I'm just going to jump right into this, and let's get going. So a couple of things. First off, this is Google Hangouts, so there is a delay sometimes between what I'm saying and what you're seeing. So if sometimes I'm talking before the slide comes up, I apologize. If I'm sometimes talking and you leave a comment in the chat box and I don't get to it, it's because there's a 30 or 40 second delay. So because I'm a puzzle person and my business is based on puzzles, what we have is a starting puzzle, and I would love it if you guys gave it a crack. All right, I'll give you a hint. This is a rebus or a picture puzzle, and you put the things together and you're going to create a message about team building. In this case, the first word is pray, but if you take the R out of pray, you get the word pay. So let me give you a couple of minutes on this, all right? Let's see, if you get it, type the message into the chat box, and let's see who can be the first. For those of you who are on my newsletter, you know we have a puzzle every single week, and you know, part of the fun is, actually, there it is. Nope, there it is. Fantastic. Yeah, so we have a puzzle every week in our newsletter, and I always acknowledge the people who are the first to solve. So it's fun to see who will be our first to solve today. So it's pay, and then it's checks, like checkbox. So pay checks. We have Edwin T. Scott from New York City online. Hey, way to go, Edwin. Great to hear from you. Anyone solve the puzzle? I have full confidence in you guys. All right, we're not going to belabor this too long because I do want to get rolling and rocking through this whole thing. All right. The solution to this puzzle was paychecks can't buy passion. Paychecks can't buy passion, which is really the point of today's workshop and webinar, is that paychecks are one of the last things that people really need to get employee engagement, right? So why am I sharing today's information with you? Well, I've been in team and employee development for over 20 years. I love the work. I believe people work happier when they're part of a close team, when they know, like, and respect each other. and their coworkers. And I really love helping people to break through what's holding them back from claiming a stimulating, passionate work life. Engagement is part of the team building puzzle and vice versa. It's not all of it, however. But I do find that people on great teams are more engaged in work, and great teams need more engaged team members for sure. Here, I'm going to actually pop me on in a second here. There we go. So like I said, great teams need engaged team members. Believe me, I've seen engagement and I've seen disengagement. Oh my God. When I first started my business, I worked at this insurance brokerage, and I had this boss who would yell and scream, and everybody lived in terror. They were slumping down in their cubicles, hiding because he had such an explosive temper. And you can imagine what that did to people's engagement. Similar example, I was doing one of my team building programs. We do treasure hunts, which I'll talk about. And we had this fellow on it named Mark. And Mark was so disengaged because he was coming from an environment of a recent merger, and he didn't feel at all valued in the new organization that had morphed from these two companies. And so he was so disengaged that he actually refused to come to the social event that we had before our activity. During the activity, he said, "Listen, I'm here in body, but I'm not here in mind. I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do. I don't even want you to take my picture. I just am checking in. Or actually, I'm just punching the clock." And that is really sad, isn't it? Right? Now, sometimes engagement can be good and bad. Like my dad, for example, who was a journalist for the San Francisco Chronicle for 35 years, he loved his job. He would go to work almost whistling, and he would come home talking about the incredible, great people he met today and the lives they were living. And he was very engaged in his work. He had a sense of purpose. On the other hand, he hated his boss. And he would had a victim mode, and he would come back and say, "Oh, my boss, who he called Fatso, he's out to get me," and so he was very disengaged by his relationship with his boss. So you can see how it works, right? And we're going to talk all about that. But believe me, engagement is important, and disengagement is something we want to avoid. And you're starting to get an idea what this looks like. So some of the questions we're going to be talking about is, why do organizations want to promote engagement? Where does engagement come from? Does it come from the inside or the outside? And does it come from the top or the bottom? Does it come from top down, or do we need to bring it from the bottom up? These are important questions, right? Research shows, as we will talk about, engagement is important. Disengagement is a growing problem, and it doesn't have to be that way. But I want you to have the experience, I want everyone to have the experience of working in an engaged culture on an engaged team. It really makes a difference. And then, of course, you have to supply your own engagement, and that is towards the end of this talk. Actually, the second half. So I want to help you to avoid making some of the same mistakes I made as a business owner, and I've been doing this for 20 years. Early in my business, for example, I had an assistant. Her name was Joanna, and she kept asking me, "What's your plan for me as the business grows?" And I said, "I don't know." And then she kept saying, "I'd love for us to get to know each other better and get away from the office to talk every so often." And I know what this sounds like, but it wasn't. I assure you, I was married, but it was interesting. That was important to her, to have that personal connection. So she wanted to know where she fit in, and she needed to know that I care about her as a person, which is a big component of trust. And honestly, I didn't know her role. I didn't know where the business was going, and I didn't have those talks, right? And that was my mistake, and she ended up moving on, and it didn't work out. And we live and learn, right? So today I'm going to show you how to create a culture of engagement that makes people feel great, that won't break the bank, and leads to fantastic productivity. Okay? Really briefly on my own story, I started this business in 1995, about 20 years ago, this team building business. And what we do is we primarily work with people who have extended teams, geographically dispersed teams, but they come together for a brief moment in time to have a meeting, and they want to make it count, and they want to make the most out of it, and they want to cement relationships and identify emerging leaders and boost productivity. And that's what we do through our live team building events. And it's been a great ride. But I want to tell you, when I first started this, I was not engaged in my life. I was very disengaged. In fact, I had a fellow entrepreneur stop me one day and say, say, Dave, you're in a rut. This is before I started my business. You're in a rut. You're in a terrible rut. You're too smart and too talented to be doing what you're doing, which was working a minimum wage job, right? I was not engaged because my previous life was so much more engaging. I'd spent the first 7 or 8 years of my life traveling around the world to 35 different countries. And that was the most engaging thing I could ever think of. I lived in Japan and then I traveled and it was fantastic. Then I came back and I didn't have a sense of purpose, right? And it wasn't until I actually put together all of my interests, including traveling and working with groups and playing with puzzles and writing, that I actually found my sense of purpose. And even then, it wasn't a linear process. About halfway through my business, I started to sag, and I, and then I had to make some changes in my personal life, in my nutrition and my health, to get re-engaged again. So it is both purpose, and also there are environmental concerns, external concerns that can boost engagement. But it's been a process of engagement and sagging engagement and then re-engagement, and it's a wonderful process. And I can't wait to tell you more about it. And away we go. So let's see. Oops. There we go. Why am I sharing this information with you today? We've already talked about that. Today, what we're going to do is we are going to include in this talk the #1 mistake employers and leaders make when it comes to engagement. We're going to identify what engagement means in the workplace and why it's vital to your organization. You'll be able to list the 3 external causes of employee disengagement. You'll be able to describe the 7 external steps an organization can take to boost engagement. And you're going to be able to implement the 6 internal steps you can start doing to improve your own engagement immediately. And that's really huge. What can you implement internally so that you are not reliant on the organization, on your boss, your supervisor, the executive staff to make your day, right? Because that just becomes dependent, right? It becomes passive. So it has to be a two-way street. The environment has to be there for you to thrive, but you also have to bring your own 100% and do what you can so that you wake up ready to be engaged. And that is a more challenging task, but it's equally worthy. At the end of today's webinar, I want to teach you the one trick that will turn so-so employee engagement into unstoppable engagement. All right, so stick around to the end. We're going to have the one trick that makes the biggest difference. Also at the end, where can I go into team to get more about team and employee engagement? I'll have a special offer, because that's what we do in webinars. Let's call a spade, right? There will definitely be a special offer, and I hope you enjoy it. If you want to go deeper, you can do it. If not, you're going to get a lot of great content no matter what. So are you ready? Who here would like to get into the nuts and bolts of employee engagement? If you are ready, type it into the chat box. Take that look at the chat box. I see people are still writing about I see there was a lot of writing about the puzzle. Yeah, it's tricky. I'm writing. Yes, fantastic. Donica is ready. You know what? I'm going to type in I'm ready too, because I am ready. I woke up ready today. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's continue. So what is employee engagement and disengagement? Do we have control over it? Let's make sure that this comes up for you. There it is. What is employee engagement and disengagement, and do we have control over it? So I want to start by saying that happy does not necessarily mean engaged. And that's a big point, right? We get this confused. When we talk about engagement, sometimes we think it means morale boosting, right? Sometimes we think that I'm engaged if I'm happy, but that's not necessarily the case, right? I've seen some people that are wildly engaged at work, but they're fighting and struggling and debating. You know, they're very involved and engaged, and they're getting feedback. They aren't happy every second, but they're challenged, right? And challenge is a big part of it. So I feel like if you're challenged, there tends to be more sense of meaning. And if you just want be happy, you make things easy. I mean, if you make things challenging, there'll be more sense of meaning. So happy does not necessarily mean engaged. So let's come up with a working definition here of what engagement is. We got to start with that, right? Employees work with passion and feel a profound connection to their company. I think that's a pretty good definition, wouldn't you say? Employees work with passion and feel a profound connection to their company. That's all it's about. You're passionate and you're connected. Engaged employees drive innovation. Here, we'll pop back over to me in a second here. Hey. Engaged employees drive innovation. They move the organization forward. They cooperate to build an organization, institution, agency, whatever we're talking about. They're behind everything good that happens there, right? That's engaged employees are what make an organization thrive. The engaged employees are enthusiastic. They're committed to work. They know the scope of their jobs, and they look for new and better way to do things. They tend to be the people in the organization who create new customers, right? I mean, it's not just the employees. It's also your frontline people. It's your gatekeeper and receptionist. The engaged people create the new customers. And note, like I said before, happy employees aren't necessarily engaged people. And we talked about that. There is a continuum that is worth talking about here. Engagement does exist along a continuum. So you've got actively engaged people. These are the people who are, are truly engaged, passionate, and connected. And that's about 30%, according to a poll in a 2013 Gallup report. It's called The State of the American Workplace, Employee Engagement. 30% of people are engaged. Then you had about 50% of the people were partially or passively engaged. And this is the bulk of the people, right? People who show up, get paid, and go home. And we know these people. They're also the people who seem to steal pencils, right? Partially or passively engaged. And then you've got 20% who are actively disengaged. What does that mean? That means that they are actively undermining the organization. They are making things worse. And that's 20%. Holy moly. Right on. That is crazy. Now, the people who are engaged, 30%, probably have a great boss. That's sort of their linchpin. 50% are not engaged at all. They're essentially checked out. They're sleepwalking through their workday. They're putting in the time, but not necessarily energy or passion into their work. And then you've got the 20% who are actively disengaged, who are acting out their unhappiness. They're undermining what their engaged coworkers accomplish. So why does this matter? Well, people who are engaged have 25% fewer accidents at work, 41% fewer quality mistakes. Engaged teammates have less health costs, right? As much as 25% less. It makes a difference, obviously, your attitude. Gallup's research also shows that there's a $450 billion to $550 billion are lost annually in the US because of active disengagement. And by one study, I thought this one was really interesting. The annual cost of a disengaged employee to a company like yours is $2,246. So every year, a disengaged employee costs over $2,000. And if you've got 100 people in your organization, that is substantial, right? 2,000 times 100, we can do the math, right? 200, what's that? I can't even do the math. Is that 20,000? Is that 200,000? It's bad. Okay, so let's talk about it. We've got to move on here. What causes employee disengagement, right? Well, it's a philosophical question, right? Is it internal or is it external? Is it management or is it the individual? Now, obviously, no organization wants people to be disengaged, right? They want people to be engaged because organizations are interested in, obviously, in productivity, and it's not just a callous reason, right? If you're a really enlightened organization, you have a mission or purpose to serve the world. You have things that you want to do in the world that your organization can help do, your company can do, that will help the world, right? And so you want people to be engaged so you can be productively serving the world at large and the community. And most people start a business not just to make money. That's the reason. So you really want to have engagement for that purpose. It's definitely win-win. But there are things that bring it down. And part of it, like I said, is internal and some part of it's external. But we're going to talk about initially now about the external causes, right? And, because that's the thing that most people on this call are probably thinking, well, this is stuff I can really do something about, right? I'm on the organizational side, the external sides. So let's talk about the 3 external causes of disengagement, right? They are senior leadership, the organization, and the immediate manager. Okay, it makes sense, right? And disengagement is right in the middle, right in the nexus. So dissatisfaction with your immediate manager. If you have a manager who is not walking the talk, you're going to lose engagement. And we all know this. It's like my manager who was yelling at me, right? He was not walking the talk. He said we're an enlightened organization, and then he yelled at us. If people are not communicating openly and have hidden agendas, you're going to be dissatisfied with your manager. If you don't get the resources you need, again, if a manager doesn't clear away internal obstacles for you to do your best work, all of these things are going to be disengaging. Some other qualities of a dissatisfaction with a manager is they don't treat you as a valuable person with skills. They're not interested in you as a person. They don't devote real time to listening to issues sincerely. Such a manager doesn't try to help you with a life-work balance, and they're not concerned with your health and well-being. Wow, that's crazy. All that's going to lead to great disengagement. You can see why. That's a terrible boss, and we've all had them. And it's not always their fault. I mean, they weren't brought up perfectly, just like none of us. They're flawed people. They're probably overworked, stressed, have a lot on their plate. A lot of people are promoted to management and they don't really have supervisorial skills. They're very good at their job. And so they get in this position and they're just thinking, let's just get the job done. Why do I have to do all this touchy-feely stuff? Well, you do, or you're going to have disengagement, particularly with people that are sensitive, right? So we're going to talk about what you can do. But let's just continue for a second. Bear with me as we keep on talking about dissatisfaction. So cause number 2 is lack of belief in senior leadership. In other words, you don't know the direction the organization is going. You don't know your role in getting there. And you don't have input in that direction either. So when senior leadership is going in a direction that you don't believe in, you don't know what your role is in it, and you don't have any input in that direction, you're just going along, boy, that is a bad situation to be in. And how could you possibly be engaged? You're just going to show up and punch the clock. And then the third cause of external disengagement has to do with lack of pride in the organization. In other words, your values and your company's values are not closely aligned. As a result, for example, if you're a millennial, it's really important that your company contributes to the community. We know that that's something that's important to those guys, right? I'm not a millennial myself, far from it, but I understand how important it is in this day and age to feel like there's a contribution to the community, and your company's stated values need to be consistent with their actual behavior. So if all that's happening, you're going to feel pride in your organization. It's very much similar to senior leadership, but it also has to do with the organization and what it's doing and whether you're aligned with it. So the number one mistake employers and leaders make when it comes to engagement is thinking a once a year survey is enough. And a lot of people who are coming from the HR world understand this. They have this employment engagement survey every year, and they find out whether people have high morale, and then they say, look at the numbers. But it's not enough, right? According to a recent article I was just reading in Forbes magazine, it puts you in a bad situation where a leader takes a survey and then tries to do it all by himself, right? He's not sort of instituting a process of employee engagement. He just says, okay, I got the engagement results. Now I'm going to make the changes, and I will be the grand master, the Wizard of Oz, and I will engage people through by myself. And it doesn't work, right? Because managers and leaders don't have the bandwidth to do it by themselves. And if you don't want to get into a situation, as I talked about before, where the leader is responsible for everyone's happiness, right? And then people feel like, okay, Big Daddy is going to make us happy and make us engaged, and it becomes very dysfunctional and dependent. And then, of course, the leader is at the beck and call of people. So, once a year survey is not the way to go, nor is a leader manager trying to do it all himself. It has to be organizational and institutional. So we've been talking for a while here about the negative things. Let's get to the juice, which is the positive things that an organization can do externally to boost engagement. And there are 7 really cool steps. I think you're going to like this. Let's see what the first one is. It's Homer Simpson. Well, no, that's not the first step. But what I want to say is it's important for an organization and for leaders to understand what employees are thinking, right? And that means you can leverage technology to do this. You can, for example, you can do surveys and things of that sort. But you can have social media, intranet. Try and, as much as possible, get input from people, right? You want to create an environment where employees feel free to provide their input without fear of retribution. That's very important, right? Yes, you want people's input, but they can't fear that if they give input, they're going to be punished for it. And you really want people to be a part of the solution, meaning that if you're going to take data from a survey, let people themselves look at the data and make sense of it. Let them partner with the leaders to make change, right? So understanding what employees are thinking is really important, and it's really important to look people in the eye and talk to them, right? I heard once said there was Tom Rath and Jim Harder wrote a book called Well-Being, the 5 Essential Elements, and they said if there's no feedback, someone will be 60% engaged. So no feedback at all, you could still be 60% engaged at work if all things are equal. If the feedback is only negative, for example, what they're doing wrong, then someone could be they're actually 78% engaged. This was an amazing statistic to me, that even if you get feedback, if you have no feedback, you're moderately engaged. Negative feedback is better than no feedback at all, right? Even if you're telling people what they're doing wrong, they're going to be 78% engaged, because at least they're not invisible. At least they know you care. And if management really sees what someone is doing well and then tells them what they're doing well, what they're doing wrong, and they're very balanced about it, then people can get fully engaged. And I want to thank Leslie Gernon, who sent me an email referring me to this resource. So the point is, feedback of any kind is better than no feedback. A balanced positive and negative feedback is the best of all. Very cool. The second thing you can do is create an intentional culture. At Google, for example, their culture is an environment of playfulness, right? And we know that. There's a company called Menlo Innovations, and this is a company up in the Northwest, and their culture is very much about joy. They even wrote a book called Joy Inc., which I recommend. It's about joy. Another organization might emphasize family, if that's their culture. Another one, it might be about adrenaline. If you're a high-performance sports company, that's what people do. They get out and they go parasailing, and they do rock climbing, and that's the culture. Engaged companies give thought to cultures. It's really important. You want to demonstrate appreciation for contributions, big and small. Your style as an organization might be a large award ceremony, Hollywood style, like the Academy Awards. I worked for an Indian company once where they had a Bollywood theme, and they would actually have award ceremonies where they have full-on Hindi music going, and people would dance up to the stage in Bollywood style, even the people who weren't from India. It was fantastic. It was so fun, and that was their personal way of demonstrating appreciation. For some organizations, it's more subtle. Pinning praising notes to the bulletin board, sending out handwritten postcards. The point is to make people feel seen, appreciated, and valued. Number 4 is you want to communicate and commit to open, honest communication, the meeting of minds. So you want to let employees know as clearly as possible what is expected of them, why they're doing what they're doing, and how it all fits into the greater good. Open, honest communication. Just like I was talking about earlier with my assistant, Joanna, was she really just wanted to know what are the expectations, why are we doing what we're doing, what's the mission and purpose, and how does it all fit into the greater good of the organization, which is to do good. Or as I know there's some organizations that say, do no harm. I think that's actually the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, right? Commit to open, honest communication. Engagement is boosted very much if you support people's career path. So you actually let people know you care about their career and development. You let them know there's a place to grow. You make mentoring a really large priority, and you let people know you see a future for them within the organization, and you are willing to help them get there. So support their career path, because people are more than just, hired for a job and then, I'm paying you money, show up and do this work. No. They want to grow with the company, and if you can see beyond what that is and encourage them in their growth, they're really going to be much more engaged. Engage in social interactions outside of work, right? Absolutely. Recreational events are fantastic. Community service. Get people out to the food bank. Have them working for Habitats for Humanity, and do type of things like I do, which is team building activities, or whatever you want to call them. Structured things. We do treasure hunts. We do corporate social responsibility, things like building bicycles. But all of these are a way to engage in social interaction outside of work, so you get to know each other and you have shared memories. It's very important. And finally, communicate the organization's stories, right? You want to start with the founder's origin story, and you want to go from there, because we are, I don't even want to go into the whole history of human beings going back to the caveman, but you know what I'm talking about. This is nothing new here. We thrive on stories, and we need to tell them often, particularly the organization's stories. Okay, we've covered quite a bit. We're at the second half of this talk, and now we get into some really interesting stuff, which is, what about internal engagement? What about internal engagement? What's our responsibility? We know what's the responsibility of your boss, the organization, senior leadership. There are a lot of things that they can do, talking to you and caring about you, and aligning your values and all that. But what's our responsibility? What's our ability to engage our engagement, and why would we want to be more engaged, right? Why would we want to be more engaged? Very good questions. According to Sonia Lyubomirsky, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who wrote a book called The How of Happiness, a scientific approach to getting the life you want. She said 90% of happiness or engagement is internal. And what she meant by that was that 50% is biological, for example, your temperament. 40% is one's thought about events. And the only piece, this is the only piece that's really, truly changeable. And 10% is internal, is external, the actual events going on. So I don't know if this is accurate or not. I don't know that biological and your temperament is fixed and can't be changed. I happen to believe that is maybe exaggerated. But she is saying, you've got things happening externally that maybe you have no control of, but you do have 40% is your thoughts about things, right? If you can change your thoughts, you can change your engagement and your happiness. And I thought that was really cool. And that external world predicts only 10% of your happiness, right? So your boss, managers, the organization, those things only predict 10% of your happiness. So it's up to you. And it's crazy, right? And it seems accurate to me. So let's talk about a few things that we can do that can boost our own internal engagement, right? And obviously it can't be mandated. Organization can't say you need to fix yourself, you need to boost your internal engagement. They can't mandate it, but it's up to you. It's a choice, and we'll talk about that. All right. So let's go and take a look at some steps you can do to boost engagement. The first one is promote vibrant health. We've got some dumbbells there, should be able to see, and some nice fruits and veggies. Now, we could do a whole webinar, and I just want a disclaimer. I am not a doctor or physician, and so I'm not going to give you advice on how you should eat in any particular way. But every doctor out there says eat more fruits and veggies, and it's absolutely true. And I want to throw in there unprocessed food. This is what Michael Pollan talks about in the Omnivore Dilemma. Unprocessed food, lots of fruits and veggies, and minimizing your animal product consumption. And think about this for a second. How can you be engaged if you're tired, if you have brain fog, if you're sore, if you're achy, and just let's call a spade, if you're constipated? And this is what happens when you eat badly, when you're eating fat and sugar and processed food. I would argue an excess of animal products like meat, eggs, and dairy. A complete disclaimer, not disclaimer, just to be completely honest, myself, I'm actually vegan, and it has very much changed my life. But you can't mandate that either. But I will say that as you start moving towards eating unprocessed food, and you cut down on the fat and sugar, and particularly on the sodas, eating lots of fruits and veggies, as you move in that direction, you're going to experience something really different. Imagine if every day you were energized, you were clear-minded, you were bursting with energy, you didn't need caffeine at all, you were pain-free in most ways, particularly in your joints, and constipation is a thing of the past. All right, how much more engaged are you going to be when you wake up every day? Which is very much what happened to me about almost 3 years ago, when like I told you, my engagement was wavering and waning, and so I changed my life and changed the way I eat, and it has boosted my engagement enormously. So I really say promote vibrant health. That also includes exercise. It also involves sleep, and it is very helpful to stick to a regimen, right? And I don't advise dieting either. I just mean making a healthy choice about how you live, right? It makes a huge difference. A second thing you can do is to promote centering techniques, right? And it doesn't have to be meditating in your corporate suit, but meditation, yoga, whatever that you're doing that centers you is very helpful. Myself, I do 30 minutes of meditation every morning, as does my wife, and it's a great thing. So meditation, yoga, whatever you do, whatever your style or technique is, it will really help, primarily because as we were talking about earlier, your thoughts lead so much to your engagement. So if you can get some distance from your thoughts come up and you don't just react and say, I have a thought and now I must act on it, but you can actually get some distance and say, no, that's a thought. No, that's a different thought. That's a different thought. And realize that, not one thought has any more weight than the next. It really is helpful. So promoting centering techniques will help your engagement enormously. Three and four is gratitude and visioning. Gratitude and visioning is so important. Imagine how much more engaged your day is going to be if you start the day not focused on the negatives, not focused on what's going badly, which is so easy to do when you're stuck in a rut, but instead say, I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for my home, I'm grateful for my friends, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for activities in my life, all the things that you're grateful for, and you write it down every day. Your day will go better. You will be more engaged. As far as visioning, it's an interesting process. Basically what you do in visioning is you work backwards. So you start at the end of the day. In your mind, you say, today I had a great day. And then you go through your day as if it's already happened. Today I had a great day. I started the day by getting up and having a really healthy breakfast, right? And then I meditated. And then I did a little bit of exercise, calisthenics, whatever it is. And then I got up and I put on my clothes and I went to work and I just kicked it all day long. I crushed it. And then I had a healthy lunch and I came and I had kicked it all afternoon. And then I came back and I did some exercise. I had a great dinner with my partner and then blah, blah, blah. And you actually vision that day and you are more likely to have it. Right? You are more likely to have that day if you've got it already visioned in your mind and you've set your intention. So I look at that one as huge. I also recommend gratitude and visioning, and also just looking at life as if it's an opportunity. And this is an interesting thing, right? A lot of people dwell on the mistakes they make. Oh, I made a mistake. But you know what? There is two ways of looking at this. One is that you're a mistake maker, and the other is that you're a life learner. Right, let me repeat that. You are either a mistake maker or you're a life learner. The opposite of success is learning. So if you look at life as an opportunity, there's an opportunity to practice old skills, master old skills. There's always an opportunity to learn new skills. There's an opportunity every single day to be of service. There's an opportunity every day to learn something about yourself. Every day is an opportunity. When I am successful and cash flow is flowing through the roof, that's a fantastic opportunity to celebrate and to give back. When things are not going well and I'm having a hard time of it, which happens to all of us, it's an opportunity to practice humility. It's an opportunity to identify with all the struggling masses who are struggling just like you, and you have great empathy bubbles out of you. So looking at life as an opportunity. Number 5, you want to challenge assumptions, right? Look at this woman in this picture. Isn't it great what she's doing? No one would assume she would do that. Fantastic. They should not assume it, maybe in India. But so you want to challenge your assumptions. You want to question them about yourself. You want to question them about the workplace. The lens you wear really does change your reality. So if you assume that something happened in the past that's going to happen again, challenge that. Who knows if it's going to happen again? It may be completely different this time now that you're a much more engaged person. Tony Robbins, the great Tony Robbins, once said, suffering comes from a life selfishly reviewed. What does that mean? Meaning that if you're looking at things for your own egoistic lens, you're going to suffer. Simple as that. Does not matter. If you are looking at things from your own egoistic lens of me, as opposed to empathizing and looking at things from other people's perspectives, you're going to suffer. People who are empathetic and see other people, they suffer less. The only thing that interferes with my learning is my education. Isn't that great? I love this from good old Albert. All right, number 6, the final. You want to try and get support and accountability, right? That is number 6. It is not easy adopting new practices like meditation and visioning and exercise and doing new ways of thinking, all the stuff we've been talking. It is not easy to adopt these new things. You're going to need some support and accountability. You're going to need a practice to do it. One thing I recommend is you set goals and you write them down, right? You're not, when you set a goal and you set yourself a purpose, you stop being ordinary. All of a sudden, you start to say, I have goals. I'm capable of doing extraordinary things. And that is huge, right? When I first started changing the way I eating and exercise and all of that, and I should mention that last November, I ran my first half marathon, which was amazing. I never thought I was capable of such a thing, somebody who hadn't run for 20 years. But when you set that intention and you do all these new practices, all of a sudden, your life becomes extraordinary, not just ordinary. And then you start saying, I want to be engaged because I want to change the world. I need to be engaged and have higher energy than anybody else around me because I want to change the status quo. I have important things to do on this planet, and I need my energy to do it. So to do that, you need to I recommend you keep a journal, very important. Surround yourself with positive people, right? You can't be with Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh and expect to move ahead. Surround yourself with positive people. This is a biggie, right? And then get support and accountability, right? Have people who are on your side who are watching and will remind you and point out if you're in a rut. So it could be family, friends, it could be a mentor, it could even be from a private coach if you can afford that. So let's do a little summary, right? The internal engagement summary: diet and exercise, centering, gratitude and visioning, looking at life as opportunities, challenging your assumptions, and creating some support. Whew, that is a handful. We have covered a lot of ground today, right? A lot of ground. We have to take a little deep breath. We've identified what engagement means in the workplace and why it's vital to your organization. We've listed the 3 external causes of employee disengagement, and we described, I put down here, 7 steps an organization can take to boost external engagement. And we've talked about how you can implement 6 steps so you can start doing to improve your own internal engagement. Yes. So in the chat box, please, who here is ready to start boosting engagement both externally and internally? If you are ready, please write yes in that box. Yes. I see that some time ago, people have been talking about no audio. I hope that is not the case. If you can hear me, I would also love for you to write something. If you can't hear it from me, that's okay. I'm just going to keep doing, and yes, thank you, Donica. Great that you can hear me. So we need to continue. Hey, welcome. We're going back and forth. Right on. So we've done a lot today, and that was the point. Glad that you're ready to move ahead, and it's so crucial for your organization as well as for yourself. And there it is. So in a moment, I'm going to make you an offer as my way of thanking you. But first, I promised you one trick that will turn good engagement into great. It's not team building. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about engagement, right? And like I said before, ditch the surveys, right? Look people in the eye and talk to them. It's that simple. If you really, feedback is the key to external engagement. It really is everything. Nothing beats sitting down, looking people in the eye and talking with them. It's not about statistics. It's about relationships. So I have a little offer here, and then I'm going to give you some bonuses because we got to have bonuses, right? So I have a program that is a great way for people to get to know each other and build engagement and relationships and boost trust. It's called the Clue Trek Mini. It is a 1-hour virtual treasure hunt. It's held in your office with a virtual facilitator, and there are 3 stages. There's an icebreaker, a mini treasure hunt, and a closing activity. It is a great it's an outside of your cubicle event that I put on where you don't have to leave the office. It's 1 hour in your office with a virtual facilitator and doing a mini treasure hunt. And I want to offer that to you today. Has some great benefits. You get to know your teammates. You get to know each other on a personal level. You get to know more about yourself. There's practice at delegation, practice at drawing out introverts, and there's identification of emerging leaders. I love doing this. I've done this a bunch of times. I think you'll really enjoy it. One of my clients, what she said about it was, as you can see, our CFO was very excited, thought it went really well. If people did something different than what they normally do at our work. Everyone enjoyed the camaraderie. Our people needed a break from the usual accounting work we do, the paper pushing, the part at the end of the program about working together across teams hit home. Within our group, we have 5 different teams, and we work within sub-teams. So it's important to cross those lines and work with the other people in other groups to get things done the right way. Thank you, Sherry Peters from the National Democratic Institute. So here's what we got for you. Usually this is a $497 program. If you book it by Monday, end of day Monday, it's $247. If you book it by the end of today, it's $197. And all you got to do is go to drclue.com checkout. And I will write all of these at the end in your chat box, right? So the checkout is where you would go to book this program. You pay for it. You send it. It sends me an email. We contact you and you book it, and boom, you've got some team engagement going on. Hope you do it. I think you'll really like it. We've got a couple of bonuses here. We've got one called it's called Beyond Gridlock. It's a 30-minute audio that I did having to do with how to get buy-in when you've got a new initiative. It's very much like what we did today, but in a sense, but there's even more. How do you get buy-in when people are all across the board, right? What are leaders asking about this? The 5 levels of attitude, the 5 ways to win and lose trust, how to create a movement for change. All of this we talk about in this audio tape, Beyond Gridlock, and all you have to do is go to my site. Again, I'll write that in the chat box at the end, but Beyond Gridlock, Beyond-Gridlock, it's a great, great little 30-minute piece with good content, absolutely for free. Here's one I got, which I really like. It's called 7 Keys for Boosting Employment Engagement. It's a checklist. And, starting with work on things bigger than yourself. So the nice little checkbook, it's on my site, and it is absolutely free. I think it'll help you to stay focused. That's bonus number 2. And oh my God, I've got more bonuses. I think bonuses are great, right? Number 3 is, oh, I'm so excited about this. This is a free ebook. It's called Get a Clue About Teamwork. It is a 10-page, 10 puzzle booklet of just puzzles like the one you saw earlier today. 10 puzzles. You can solve it by yourself, or as a group team building exercise. You can win a shot at cool prizes. 10 great, cool puzzles like the ones that we do in our treasure hunts. It is absolutely free, and you're going to love it. They're fantastic, cool clues, if I do say so myself. You just go to the puzzle-book-download and you get started. Wow. So That being said, let us try and start wrapping things up here. Oh, I have another puzzle for you. Final puzzle. Now this is something called marine signal flags. I don't know how they're used, except that they are used in the marine world. I've written a puzzle written in marine signal flags. Down in the bottom right is the key. All you have to do is do a little bit of substituting to read the message, which begins, the way your blank feel is the way your blank will feel. Why don't you take a look, see if you can figure this out. It's not brain science. I'll tell you, the first letter is E. Okay. Give you a moment. As you're working on this, I want to respond to Edwin, who asked if the PowerPoint will be available. Yes. Actually, I'm going to be sending a replay of this entire thing. If you need the PowerPoint slides, I can send those to you. Absolutely. But I will be sending out the link to the tape of this on YouTube, so you can watch the whole thing over again. I'm sorry you missed the middle part, Becky. Again, the audio will be available. You can watch the whole thing over again. I will be sending this to everybody who subscribed to this. So, any takers on the final puzzle? I know you're working on it. It takes a while. All right, here's the story. The way your employees feel is the way your customers will feel. And isn't that the truth? Isn't that the case? The way you feel is the way your employees will feel. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now. My website is on this slide, as well as my email and my phone address. And I will take a moment and type in all of those links so you have them. And I invite them. That's my gift to you for listening to me today. And here I am back in my office in beautiful Northern California, about an hour north of San Francisco, California. I hope you enjoyed today. It's been really fun, and you can tell I'm passionate about this, right? Imagine what it's like if you wake up and you can't wait to get to work because your organization has done the right thing and has created the environment for you to do your best work and cares about you. And then you've cared about yourself enough to bring your heroic energy. You put that together and with a sense of purpose, and life is a different place. It is absolutely stunning. So I'm on your side, and I'm here to support you. If there's anything that I can do, please let me know. I'm going to check over and see if there's any questions. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, what you heard, Diana. I will check and see. Yeah, exactly, Edwin. The way your employees feel is the way your company feels. Right on. Yeah. Employees and customers, yeah. Customers, right? Yeah. So that's the truth. And the way you feel is the way your organization feels as well. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to end this session. And this is the ending, but it is also a beginning. And that's how I treat everything. That's how I treat every day. So thank you so much. It has been a gas. And I look forward to future sessions. We're trying to do these every week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.